Hi everyone, my name is Ana Maria Subotic. I'm actually an international student here at Winthrop University. I'm from Slovenia and Greece. I study integrated marketing communications and I'm finishing off my senior year. I also work as an ambassador, international ambassador, so I help any international student here at Winthrop adjust to life, whether it's about school, classes, anything I help them out with. I'm also an international admissions counselor assistant, which means that I can assist you with anything, whether it be transcripts or grades. I'm here for you. And we'll introduce the other member today.
I'm Jonathan Kimmery. I'm an admissions counselor here at Winthrop University and just attending with Ani here, just to help you guys with questions that maybe I can steer her in the right direction, and if there are any other questions that she has that maybe she can't fully answer, I'll be here to assist her and she'll be doing the same for me.
So if you have any questions, just don't hesitate to ask. I'm here to answer any concerns, or if you have any issues, maybe you're already registering right now to come to Winthrop. But I'll just tell you a bit of my personal experience here at Winthrop. I actually came fall 2010. As I said, this is my senior year. I was very nervous because it was the first time that I was actually coming on a college campus, because probably everyone knows that if you're international that we don't have campuses like this at home. We just have a big old building where our classes are at. So I was very overwhelmed, but to be honest, once I had orientation, because the first thing you do when you come here as an international student is you have orientation. I had orientation and I started talking to other international students, and the people that were leading this orientation were actually very helpful. And I had questions about bank accounts, cell phones, calling home, where do I get this, where do I get that? They were all very helpful. So it made the transition to come here very, very easy. And also interacting with international students made it super comforting when I first walked in here, because I arrived one day before orientation started. So I started talking to international students, and because we're all away from home, we all know how it feels like to be away from home. So we always bond over this. But yeah, after that, I lived in a dorm my freshman year, and I was supposed to my sophomore year, but then I moved off campus. But as a student, you have to live 2 years on campus, and then you can move off campus. And I recommend for anyone that's looking to study in America that you spend 2 years on campus, because that is where you'll gain most of your experience with international students. Not with international students, as an international student, because you start meeting so many American friends. You start learning about their culture. You start learning about events that are going on on Winthrop, and it made it more fun. My first year living on campus, I was always aware of what was going on. I was always out of my dorm room, socializing with people, going to events. So I actually missed it in the sophomore year when I moved out. I missed living in the dorm because I just didn't talk to many people that much. But from an international person's perspective, it's very helpful, because once you get American friends, you start bonding with them and you develop really strong friendships. I met 3 of my roommates from last year. I met them just in the dorms, and we've been really good friends since then. And even though 2 of them graduated, we're still friends. So that would be one big thing I'd recommend, is stay on campus, because you'll meet some of the most incredible people you could ever imagine. But for me, I know maybe not most of you, but some of you, your English may not be so good. I actually studied in international schools when I was younger and in an American school, so English for me wasn't that hard when I came here. But I know, seeing other of my friends having English classes and writing classes, that it was just really hard for them to adjust to the language barrier. I wouldn't worry about that so much if you're looking to study in America or at Winthrop, because you have your counselors, like I said, when you come to orientation, and you have the International Center that will always be there for you. And in the International Center, we have academic tutoring. If you have any problems with any class in specific that the International Center cannot help you with, you have the tutoring services here at Winthrop, and they're free of charge. You can get your tutor who can help you with all of your classes, which is something that a lot of students take advantage of, because it does help them. You can really improve your grades by taking these tutors. So I wouldn't really worry about the language barrier, and that's why I recommend for international students staying on campus, is because if you socialize mostly with Americans, your English will start to improve within like the first month of being here. My roommate, for example, she's French, and I started hanging out with her probably last semester when she came in January. Her English was not good at all. She had a thick accent, she couldn't understand much, she couldn't speak much. And just after a month of hanging out with me, because she was forced to speak English with me, I could understand more, like I could see her English getting better. So yeah, I should really recommend that you stay with, hang out with American students. But otherwise, like I said, English, it may be hard at first and demanding, but you can always talk to your teachers, which is another thing I really love about Winthrop, is that the teacher, because the class sizes are so small, the average people in a class are 25. Your teacher always knows your name. She knows who you are. He or she knows who you are, so they're always there to help you if you have any problems whatsoever. So if you have any problems with the class and you go to your teacher and approach them and you say, I'm sorry, I'm international, I don't understand, can you help me? They're going to be very supportive, because it's not one of the big schools where you're just maybe a number to someone. You're actually, you know, you get to know your teachers, so don't hesitate to ask them, don't be intimidated. That's what they're here for. They're here to help you. So yeah, that about pretty much covers it about my experiences when I first came here. I was overwhelmed, but because I stayed on the dorms and I was always around, I just gained all these friendships. And as an international student, if you're looking to work on get a job in America, your visa violations won't allow you that to work off campus. You're only allowed to work on campus, which is something I recommend to do as well, because you gain experience in maybe like the, how would you call it? You gain experience and you gain knowledge of how the work area in America is. So you know, you start learning different cultures as well, and it could be really good for your future job if you're looking to stay in America or anywhere, to have a job on campus, just so they can see, like future employers can see that, you know, you have experience in an American work area and you know how to behave and you know how to talk. So that pretty much covers my experiences. I hope you have any questions for me. Do you have any recommendations?
So, you know, just kind of piggybacking off of your experiences here at Winthrop, one thing you said is that you would recommend hanging out with some of the American students here. How receptive and how open did you feel that they are to, you know, being welcoming to you? Yeah.
That is actually a very good point. When I heard a lot of stories when I came here that Americans are intimidated by international students because we always hang out as a group. And I admit that is true, but we don't do that, and you won't do that intentionally. It's just because at first, these are the international students are the first people you'll ever meet when you come here, because you're all together doing orientation. So I was hanging out with them at first, but then I got placed with an American roommate. And I started talking to her, and I started getting to know her, and I didn't judge her. Maybe it's just because I was me, but I'm very open to meeting other people. So I wasn't perceived as intimidating to them, that they could approach me. And also I'm the person that, you know, goes and talks to people. Some international students really don't want to, not that they don't want to socialize with American students, it's just because of the language barrier. They're still kind of shy to speak with people whose English is really good. And I can understand that. But it's not that like Americans think that we're intimidating, but it's just you know, like I said, we bond better with international students. So it's just different on, you know, where you come from and how well your English is. Like I said, I recommend like meeting friends in classes, meeting friends in the cafeteria when you eat, meeting friends in your dorm. It will really help you a lot, and you'll be able to have more fun, because some people might know the area, and if, you know, as international students, we won't have a car, or you won't have a car when you first come here. So they'll be able to take you around, show you places, experience the culture even more, which is a great factor. Because I had a lot of friends my freshman year that didn't speak so good English, that stayed together for the majority of the year and didn't really socialize with Americans. And of course, then to Americans, we're perceived as that we're intimidating and that we don't want to socialize with them. So But now that I see them, that their English has gotten so better since they've been here for almost 4 years, I see them hanging out with American students and international students, or just all together. Sometimes we even, if we hang out, we have not only international students, but we have American students too. So you can see that has greatly improved, and we've just built friendships. And it's funny because a lot of people that come here, international students, say that they're going to stay here just for 4 years and go back to their country. A lot of them have changed their minds since then. At least 90% of them that I know have changed their minds because they made friendships here and they started to enjoy the culture here so much that they just want to stay here and see maybe they have a better opportunity in America. Yeah. So, like I said, my roommate, I have a French roommate and I have an American roommate. And my other roommates that graduated were all American. And I met them in the dorm. One of them happened to be my first roommate, and we were hanging out with 2 other girls, and we all decided to live together. And I had no problem. We bonded. And it's good to also share your culture with someone else. You can enlighten someone else about your culture just by talking to them. So I really don't regret, meeting them and being with them and sharing a room with them, and I don't regret putting effort to meet them at all or getting to know them.
So would you say then that not only did you gain experience and got to experience different cultures of not only here in America, in South Carolina and Winthrop, but also some other cultures that maybe you didn't have exposure to as well? I mean, French, you probably a good bit of that.
Let me just tell you. So you're basically asking what other cultures are, what kind of.
You feel like you gained an understanding of other cultures as well?
Well, yeah. Well, when you're from Europe like me, you kind of already have an insight about how other cultures are. But for example, from Europe, I had never met people from South America before. And if there's any Brazilians out there, there's a huge Brazilian population here. They're besides Asians and Saudi students, they're one of the second biggest population we have. So I got to see how their culture is, which was like, I felt like as I was an American, because I felt intimidated because they're always speaking in Portuguese and I didn't understand. But I got to learn about their culture, and being in South Carolina, I definitely got to learn about the southern culture of America, because when I would travel to America, I'd always go to Florida, so I wouldn't really, see the real Americans, because there is just a mix of Hispanic culture too. So I definitely got to experience the southern culture. And there's a huge population of Chinese students. There's a great population of Saudi students. We have French people that come every spring. We have a lot of people coming from Spain as well. And we have some people coming from Australia and South Africa. And that's about it, yeah. And so, the biggest population then I would say is Brazil. And it's just amazing because we, international students, every year we host 2 events to broaden the international experience on campus, the Global Learning Initiative. We have an event called Taste of the World, which is where all of the international students come together and each perform something of our own country. And believe it or not, this has been a huge success every year because Americans are so keen on learning about our cultures, and it actually makes everyone feel good that we can enlighten them about where we come from and share our experiences with them. So that's one great thing about being an international student here on campus, is you just get to engage with them, and it's always good to let someone know where you're from if they're interested. And then the second one is called the Asian Lunar New Year, which happens every spring. It's basically the majority of the Asian population we have here form together the New Year because it's on a different day. So that's also a huge success. That's actually bigger than the Taste of the World. And it's just a lot of people start, because our Winthrop focuses about a very diverse campus, having a very culturally diverse campus. So if we're able to contribute that as international students, it's amazing. And we're always trying to get more international students to coming, especially me. I come from a small country. There was only one girl before me here that came from Slovenia. Now we already have 4 of us, and there's a 5th one coming. So that's always great that just by talking to people and getting them aware to even your friends back home, greatly enhances the international community on campus here at Winthrop, and it also gives a good representation of Winthrop. But yeah, you really get to learn a lot about every culture possible that's on campus.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if there are any questions that you guys want to ask specifically, feel free, obviously, to type that in at any time, and we will address that. But also, just wondering, I know, obviously you're still enrolling in college, but a lot of your friends stayed to see if there was, possibly a better opportunity just because they fell in love with. I mean, that process, I guess, maybe even coming over here to study, as far as I guess the documentation is concerned, did you find it to be difficult? And if you know anything about, I guess a lot of times you'd have to have a student visa that extends past the graduation date, and you have to ensure employment by then to get extended or something like that. I mean, if you can shed any light on that.
Yeah, about immigration. So one thing about Winthrop is that we have rolling admissions, which means that we can accept applications any time of the year, first of all, so there's no any specific deadline. Although we do recommend, for early admission that you send it as soon as possible, but we accept applications any day of the year. So for me, what I had to do was take that, like every other American student applying to an American college or university, I had to take the SATs. And there are special requirements for international students. If you don't score really good on your reading skills, like I did, I had to take the TOEFL, which is a test of English as a second language, test of English as a foreign language, TOEFL, the exam. And you have a minimum requirement, which is listed on the website, of the Winthrop website, that if you get the number of points, you're accepted. You're accepted. You are, considered as a prospect student. But anyway, after I found out, I just got an application from Winthrop. It wasn't an application. It's called an I-20, which is basically a sheet of paper saying that you are enrolled for 4 years of studying at Winthrop. And with this sheet, I was able to go to the U.S. Embassy, which is where I got my visa, which is where I applied for my visa. So basically coming here wasn't that hard. It's just this international center is really helpful in telling you how when to do it, how to do it. It's basically a simple process. You apply, you send your grades, you get a result, you get your papers, you go to the embassy, get your visa, book your ticket, and come here. And there are also special scholarships offered for international students. There's the International Ambassador Scholarship, which is what I'm on, and I have to volunteer 30 hours per semester and maintain a 2.75 GPA to be an ambassador. Volunteer hours, I mean that I have to volunteer 30 of my hours to the International Center per semester. Then there's also the International Baccalaureate Scholarship, which is the IB. Probably a lot of you are on that right now. And there's different requirements for that one. I'm not sure how much because I didn't apply for that one. But yeah, so if you might get an opportunity to even get a scholarship here. So like I said, coming here was pretty easy. I just sent my paperwork, I got the paperwork, and I came here. But since I'm still enrolled at Winthrop, the hard part is possibly staying at Winthrop. Not staying at Winthrop, but staying in US after you graduate. Because it's very hard for us to stay here. You have to apply for OPT if you want to stay here for 1 year. You apply for OPT, which basically gives you the possibility of staying here for another year, but you can work anywhere you want. This is the difference, that you don't have to work on campus or in your old school. You can work anywhere you want. And if you find a good job, and if they hired you for a year and you did a really good job, you could get sponsored from that work and stay here as a work visa. That is probably the trickiest part, because I have friends who are still struggling with that, and it's been almost a year and a half since they graduated. They got different visas, but not the visas that they wanted to. I wish I could tell you more about that, but I don't have much insight on that since I'm still a student, and I don't want to ask my already nervous friends about it. So I think the difficult part is just staying here. Besides applying, is staying in the U.S. Yeah, but it's very different than in Europe. In Europe, you have to actually have a lot of work experience to get qualified. Sorry. Sorry. You have to have work experience to get qualified to be considered for a job. Because in Europe, you don't have to really, and you have internships that you have to do here. So that's the big difference between well, my school at least, and not my school, my country and America. So yeah,
Okay.
that would be it.
I think you addressed this a little bit as well as far as transitioning here. Sounds like it was not an extremely difficult process for you, but what would you say for students who are coming here, the cost ratio or affordability to studying abroad, possibly staying here for a while through your college career, and the tuition cost, and studying at home?
That is a huge difference, especially because at least I know in Europe, colleges are free. You may have to pay a deposit of something to get like all your books at once, but it's a very small deposit. I think it's like €25, which we all know is around, well, American, US, it's around $30. Unless you decide to go to a special school, but the minimum you pay is €2,000, which compared to American prices again is very expensive, is very cheap. Living here, even though I'm on a scholarship, I still find it pretty expensive, even though we get the out-of-state tuition waive, like we get the fee waived, so we pay, like my scholarship is that, so I still pay, like I pay half of my tuition as an in-state student, but that's still pretty expensive. It's around $6,000 to $7,000 per semester, and that's excluding books and living, because I live off campus, and groceries. So it's pretty expensive. I would be really well prepared to come here, and that's also one of the really good reasons to get a job is to make some of your own side money, because we also have very limited scholarships for international students. We only offer 2 or 3 of them, so it's very different than in anywhere. I mean, in Europe, at least from my perspective. But I think it's worth it. I mean, it's a very different experience, and I wouldn't want to be any place. I think I feel like I've gained so much more experience and grown up so much more as a person, being in a completely different country by myself, starting new. You know, I came here when I was 17. I was turning 18. I had this my first time away from my parents for a longer period of time. I had to, start, paying my own bills. I had to open my own credit card. I had to, figure out my own way of how am I going to eat and when am I going to eat. I had to do my own laundry. So it was definitely a really big change. But I think it's very worth it because I changed and grew up so much within 1 year of being here. I could tell the difference when I was 17. At the beginning of my freshman year, by the end of my freshman year, I was completely different, and I started changing and growing up and realizing what I want. Because a lot of time, like when I came here, which is one thing I should add, when I came here, I didn't know what I wanted to study. Because of course, when you're 17, you don't know what you want to study, I'll admit. So I came here as an English major, but I quickly changed into mass communications. Until the beginning of my sophomore year, which is my second year, I changed to integrated marketing communications. And that's when I finally realized that's what I want to do. It's what interests me. Just after a year of being at college, I realized what I wanted. I wouldn't worry about that because you have actually 2 years. You can come in as an undeclared major, and you have 2 years until you make up like your mind about what you want to study. And in that by the end of those 2 years, you'll know what you want to do because you'll take so many different classes. It might be an arts and science class. It might be, it might be an art class, a science class, a communications class, a business class. Whatever you're going to take, by the first 2 years what you're going to study. So I really wouldn't hesitate that you come here and you have to know immediately what you have to study. You have at least 2 years time to declare your major, which is amazing because I know back home it's you study that. You go to a college, you study, I don't know, for example, I wanted to study philosophy back home. You study philosophy and if you realize you don't want to do that, you have to start all the way from the beginning at a different school. And here you don't have that worry. You can just take general classes and then end of your sophomore year go and declare your major. So that's a great thing too because by then you figure out who you are and what you want to do.
Okay. Well, other than the fact that you have to choose basically what you want to do from the beginning, would you say that the learning experience or the education system is somewhat similar, or is there a different approach?
It's a different approach.
Okay.
One thing, I always was used to the American school system because I went to an American school in Greece for almost 12 years, and then I went to international school for 5 years, or 6 years. So I was always used to being used the American way, but I would, because I had I had international friends in my home in Slovenia, but I also had Slovene friends, and I realized their school system was completely different. I was used to this system, so I like the system, but it's the system that you always have a chance to improve your grade. You have class participation, you have to come to class, you can engage in class. You always have projects, you always have quizzes, you have presentations, you have group presentations, you have papers and exams, you have all these possible ways to improve your result. It's not like you pass or fail a class. If you fail a class, you can retake it and pass it the second time. If you don't do good in your first exam, don't worry, you have 3 other exams, or you have quizzes. And it's definitely I always have more motivation to study, because I know that if I can start a class, and then 3 weeks of that class I'll have an exam in it, and then 3 weeks later I'll have another exam in it. So you'll always have to, you're just always doing your work all the time, and you're on top of your stuff. So when you have your final exam, it's just like a repetition of all the past things you've done, and it's always, you always have a way to improve your grade. And like I said, our teachers are very approachable. They'll help you out in any ways they can. So yeah, it's very different than back home, because back home, at least in Slovenia, you have one exam. You have 6 or 7 exams a year, and you have to pass them. And if you don't pass them, you're not considered a junior, or you're not considered a senior, or whatever. And I definitely wasn't used to that. So I like this way. I feel like you're always constantly on top of your stuff, doing your homework, doing your assignments, that you're always constantly gaining knowledge all the time, because you just have to be aware of what's going on. And I definitely, favor this system a lot better than the one back home. Okay. Yeah.
All right, so that may be an adjustment that some others would have to make. Sounds like you were kind of used to this way or this approach already, and prefer this approach. But all right, well, I think that seems to be almost it. Anything else you can think of that you'd like to add? Have you had a chance to, get out of? So I know you visited Florida, Disney World.
Yeah. Well.
Anywhere else that you traveled here?
Well, I used to visit Florida a lot, because my parents and my brother and I would always every summer go and visit Florida. But by myself, since I've been here, I've been to New York, been to Washington D.C. I've driven through Virginia, but I've never been there. I've been to Atlanta, Georgia, and I've been to New Jersey as well. So I've only been on the East Coast, and I'm looking forward to going to the West Coast. But yeah, it's what I like about U.S. is that you can drive anywhere as well. It sounds like it's a long distance, but every time I went to these places, I never flew. I'd always drive. It is like a bit 9-hour drives, 10-hour drives, but it's always worth it. You save a lot of money. Okay. Yeah, so I would definitely one great thing here is that we always have breaks. We have a break coming up soon. It's called fall break, and then we have Thanksgiving break. And these breaks is normally the time where we decide to travel. We forget the schoolwork and go and travel. As international students, it's something we do. But we have also a really great city here. It's called Charleston. It's a city by the beach. It's one of the, it's so different than anything you've seen in Europe or anywhere else where you're from. So we went there a couple of times with my friends, because it's just amazing. It's different atmosphere, and we really enjoy that, because we don't have things like that back home. But yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
All right. Well, awesome.
Do you have anything to add?
No, I think that's about it. I think you covered for the most part a lot of the questions that people who are thinking about studying abroad or international students would have. If you are interested in Winthrop, there's obviously a way to contact us. We can put that out there, and if you're actually looking into Winthrop, I'm sure you've probably taken those necessary steps and know who to contact.
If you have any questions, you can find the International Center online on winthrop.edu. You can in the search engine, just write International Center and you'll find the information. And normally if it's according to like academic transcripts or, having to put, contact you guys in any way because of your grades or applications, you'll probably get directed to me. I'm Ani Subotic, so if you do decide to come here, you'll probably get a lot of emails from me or be in contact with me. But if you have any questions at all about anything else, if for example, you could be an international student studying in America already and considering transferring here, you can talk to also Jonathan or any other counselor that we have here because they do handle American and national admissions. And again, our website is www.winthrop.edu, just in case. And yeah, I think that's about it, unless you guys have any last minute questions. I think we covered everything, hopefully.
Yeah, I think so. All right. Well, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, I hope we give you a little bit of insight. Hope my experiences helped you decide whether or not you're going to come study here. And hope you guys have a great day.